Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Hopefully everybody knew about the time change, and we got people join. Oh yeah, there's a few I can see on the counter. I have like a little counter up there that says tick 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 as people join and scan things and all the rest of it. Hello to everybody from all the usual faces, I think, as well. But Athens, Greece, Costas. Uh, Paul says hello from South Carolina. Carolina, not that Carolina. Nance, hello Einstein. You're always here, aren't you? Thanks for joining us. I'm very happy about that. The province of Quebec. Salut, my friend. I hope you're doing well in Quebec. I don't know if you speak. I'm sure if you're in the province of Quebec, then you probably speak French. But if not, oh, sorry. You speak Canadian, which is like English, British English, but different, and nothing like Americans. Who else have we got? Nigel said, I like that find the unit feature on 12.3. Does it scan your whole PC? Actually, I've got a confession to make. I've been really busy, and there's a couple of features that I don't really know the details of, and that's one of them. So I don't know is the short answer. I know it's AI and various other things. So I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out and get the answer for you. Terry also, Nigel said, where was it? Grey matter. We're not slagging off grey matter. We're just making a mention here about the fact that grey matter weren't aware of the code or voucher for the video course. So what happens is, and I'm not sure the details, check the actual details, but when you order a license, I don't know if it's an upgrade or renewal or something like that, but you'll get a code through, and on that code, that license code, underneath there should be two coupon codes for two of the courses. So there are two courses on Embarcadero Academy. One is by Antonio Zapata, and it's about RAD server and all about RAD server and everything else with it. The other one is mobile development by me, and it's like a getting started into mobile development. So it doesn't show you how to do absolutely everything, because you're going to have to learn as you go along. You want baby steps and start off and learn the basics, but the mobile development course will get you creating apps on your Android devices and iOS devices and tablets as well, iPads and things like that, and teach you about things like FireMonkey and stuff like that. So Nigel's going to email me, and we'll find out what's going on there. There may be a bit of a gap between some of what we're saying with regard to those codes. It could just be you get it in the certificate that arrives, and they're not aware of it. We said hello to California, and there's a man outside starting to cut the grass. Welcome to spring in Texas. It is currently 77, which is a kind of toasty 20-something centigrade, and it's been cold and then hot and then cold and then hot, and we had tornado weather and everything in it. Later on, Martin Pelletier says, yes, I speak French. I thought so, yeah. I thought that was a guess. Who else? Oh, we've got Iran. Hello to our people in Iran. And Doug Filtro, another person from up the north of the border, up north, if we would say if we were British. Doug is quite often here as well, and that is Canada, of course. Wonderful country, same king as England. So very fond of the Canadians. Who else we got? Belkier Bega. Belkier. Sorry, I'm just going to say Belkier. Good to see. And Nigel says 77. Send it here. There is a guy outside cutting the grass. How very annoying. Hopefully my noise cancelling mic will hide him. So there you go. So yeah, an evening from a warm Leeds in the UK. Really, I heard it was freezing cold in the UK. If you're a northerner like my father, he was a Geordie, he'd walk around in a t-shirt in the snow. He was impervious to temperature. I don't know what was up with him, but I literally saw him walking around in there. Bon lade. Bon lade. Wow, that is a really loud lawnmower outside. How wonderful. right outside my window. Good evening from Agadir. I love that place. I know Agadir very well. It's a very popular destination for Brits, actually. Hello from Cedar Park. I feel like I should shout above the noise of the grass cutting dude. He's actually doing my neighbour's grass. There's an alleyway that goes between our houses with grass on it. So he'll be finished soon enough, one hopes. Hola, my friends in Mexico, Jose. Dzień dobry, Peter from Poland. Fantastic. Oh, Doug says you can't hear the mower. Isn't that incredible? The noise cancellation is on this thing is absolute. I do have an acoustic shield around it, but even so, the noise cancelling is very effective. The dogs don't really complain, Terry. They just kind of shuffle around and bump into things. So I'm always very careful to make sure I have like spare dog treats just in case, and I can hand them one. So I'm from Hilden in Germany. Fantastic. Paul says, I don't hear it. I think he means hear it. Noise reduction works perfectly. Hear it, he says. Yeah. Noise reduction works perfectly. No one seems to cut grass outside. Good. Well, there you go. Isn't that amazing? I mean, the technology, you know, I used to do audiobooks. I was a narrator. So I had to speak like this whenever I was narrating the books. And it was very difficult to get a dead room for noise narration, for audiobook narration. And that was only 5 years ago, I think, and now the technology has really gone on in leaps and bounds, and being able to cancel out the noise. It's noticeable on the webinars where there's a shared webinar with the PMs. People have different microphones and different techniques with the microphones, and you can hear that kind of difference in the tonal quality. My mic is not that expensive, but the way that I use it and the way I've got it set up is different, I think. Warm here is anything other above 2 Celsius. There you go. So I knew it. Northerners, what you like, eh? And there used to be a Llamasoft game about mowing the lawn on the Amiga. Yes, I remember Llamasoft. Now, what was it? Jeff something. I saw him demonstrate VR in the very early 90s when the computers really weren't up to it. And he had this chair that was kind of looked like it had been welded out of different bits of piping. And he was laying back and playing this game with a headset on. I'm sure that's what it was, unless I dreamed it. Maybe it was Lawnmower Man. But anyway, yeah, ironically. And he was playing in this VR thing. And that was in the, like, must have been 92 or 93. He was way ahead of his time. Very amazing. Hello from Turkey. Hi there. And Brazil, my big bunch of Brazilians are there. And it must be keen 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning in New Zealand. John, what are you doing, dude? Weren't you were on another webinar, weren't you? I swear you were on the webinar yesterday that I did for Australia. Jeff Minter, yes, that's the guy. I knew his name was Jeff. I just couldn't remember. Yes, Jeff. Him and his mum were in a computer show in a Hammersmith back in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, he was a really incredible guy and way ahead of his time. And I must mention as well, there is another guy. I don't know, Peter, are you still on the chat? If you are, just say hi for a second. I think Peter Turtle should be on there. Let me see, it will come up in a second. Yeah, Jeff Minter, well done, Mike. Yeah, I knew his name was Jeff. I just didn't remember what his surname was. I'm going to guess Peter is there. Look, Peter Turtle. He's not saying hi at the moment, but there's a bit of a delay anyway. Peter Turtle, who I've known for a very, very long time, 20 plus years. He is an there you go. Talk of the guy. I nearly said devil, you know, but Peter Turtle is our newest MVP. Well done, congratulations to Peter. I've known Peter for, it must be nearly 20 years now, mustn't it? I think we used to work together years ago. He was always a very good coder. He's a very big Delphi enthusiast as well. And he's lived in Italy. He's kind of, technically, he's a British MVP because he lives in the UK. But he also speaks Italian, which Alfonso, who's just said hi from Italy, is going to find as well. But Peter's listing will be up on the MVP site soon. I've sent him his official congratulations on an MVP already. But really smart guy. Him and I used to work together down in South Clapham, in Clapham South, sorry. And we were there during the 7/7 bombings when there was a terrorist attack and things like that. And wow, that was a heck of a time back then as well. And you know, he knows his stuff. He's a good Delphi guy, solid developer. And people are saying grats to Peter as well. So yeah, just wanting to call him out live on the stream and say, well done, Pete. I'm very pleased about that. He speaks a good Italian as well because he was over there for ages. And hello from Turkey. I don't think he speaks Turkish, but you know, like. But anyway, that's Peter Turtle. So look, today's webinar is it's about a subject that's kind of very technical, and it's also, because of the way it works, it's actually very difficult to demonstrate. And so it's going to be quite a short webinar, because really it's about raising the awareness of this product, because not everybody knows about it. Now, the product that we're going to talk about, which was already mentioned before, is on the header slide. There was mORMot, and it was primarily a free Pascal, and still is a free Pascal project. It works with free Pascal as well as Delphi. And Arnaud Boucher, who is the project leader there, is an MVP as well. He kind of agreed to be an MVP earlier in the year. There was a lot of, you know, he checked me out to make sure that I wasn't some kind of scam artist trying to push him away from free Pascal. And that's not what I do. You know, I would rather, obviously, I work for Embarcadero, and I would prefer people to use RAD Studio and Delphi. And I think we have significant advantages. And I think the people we appeal to are slightly different from Free Pascal and Lazarus. But if you're not going to use Delphi, please use Object Pascal. Do not. You are doing it the hard way if you go and use C# and other languages like that. And I really mean that. I've had lots of emails this week from two people, for example, who their projects were forced onto a different language. I'm not going to say what one it was, but one guy tried 4 different languages at his company because they kept swapping and changing the frameworks that they were going to use and things like that. And he came back and said, I could have done it in Delphi like that. But that's the thing. I believe that Object Pascal, which was a kind of evolution of Niklaus Wirth, you know, and then Turbo Pascal, and the additions that Apple put in and things like that, is the best way of developing software by far. And we are not. I want to dispel the illusion now that Free Pascal and Delphi are enemies, because we're not. And in fact, I'm going to I think an event in December where we will be side by side. We are cousins. We appeal to different audiences. We appeal to different use cases in most of the time, and we share a lot of you know, people in that industry, and we are cousins. And we don't always agree, and some people in Free Pascal do not trust me, and I totally understand that, because they feel like there's a kind of commercial imperative, and that I'm just looking to kind of, you know, mess the thing up. And I promise you I'm not. And I'm also not concerned about talking about Free Pascal, because I believe that it's behoven on Embarcadero and RAD Studio to offer an alternative to all other development languages, including ones that are similar to ours, and offer the best solution possible. And I believe we do. I genuinely believe that. I've been a Delphi developer since the day of the Delphi 1 first came out, and look at me now. I get paid to talk about it. It's fantastic. You know, who knew that in the 90s that would happen? But I'm genuinely, I'm not just paid to be enthusiastic. I am enthusiastic, and I happen to get paid for that. So, you know, just to reiterate that, you know, mORMot is more on that side, but actually also on Delphi side as well. And you know, like that. And sometimes there's going to be a bit of friction, because, you know, people get worried about their own pet projects and things like that. But not for me. You know, we're all in the same family, and we always should be. And by the way, the TIOB index, which we are currently number 10, which we bounce around between 9 and 10, that is a collective result for all of us. Object Pascal for the win, which Delphi is a variant of, and Free Pascal is. Object Pascal is the solution. And I tell you now, you should be using Object Pascal. Use Delphi if possible, because I believe, yeah, as Nigel says, a common ancestry. They kind of went like that years ago. I speak regularly to the head of the Lazarus project. He's, you know, got me on speed dial almost, and we talk probably every week and organize things together and discuss things and stuff like that. You know, so I just want to clear that up and say, you know, like any family, sometimes there's disagreements, but overall, we're all aiming for the same thing, and that is the enemy is not each other. You know, it isn't. We're friends. Okay, Free Pascal, Turbo Pascal, Delphi, Carlix were awesome on that time. Yeah, and they still continue to be. You know, so there you go. Right. So, couple of things I also wanted to mention as well. And that is that as of yesterday, you may not have been to the site yet, but if I put up the QR code, you'll see up there it says the 12.3 now. And the reason is that RAD Studio 12.3 Athens is now available. Yes, it is. If you're a big Delphi fan, you probably attended the webinar yesterday. If not, if you've got RAD Studio open, or you open it at some point today, if you look down the right-hand side of the screen, you will see in the welcome page down on the right, and I'll show you in a moment, there's a thing that says Learn, and the top video, you can't miss it because it looks, the thumbnail looks like this, bright yellow. There's the replay of the webinar from yesterday. So if you missed it, you're asleep, or you didn't get the email. I know some people don't read the emails, and that's fine. Or you're just viewing this on YouTube. And if you are viewing on YouTube, click on like and subscribe. I know it sounds like a bit like an influencer, but it's a good reason for doing that. You won't miss a thing, even when I start at an odd time because the clock changes. So like and subscribe. I won't know who you are. I won't have your email. I won't have your personal inside leg measurement or anything like that. All that will happen is YouTube will send you a notification to say that I've gone live, and then you'll know. And also, when we set live events up, you'll get a reminder to say, oh, they're going to be live on Thursday or something like that as well. So if you can, like and subscribe. They won't give me any more money, even if you do subscribe. You know, I won't get any bonus. So there's absolutely nothing in it for me. But it just means that you will actually get to get notified that I'm going live. So it's quite important. But anyway, 12.3 is now available, and it's got, watch the video another time for what's in it. I'm not going to repeat it today, but just suffice to say it's got some cool stuff. And of course, while we're on the subject, because I feel it's important to mention it, also don't forget in June, and I'm told the registrations are going really, really well, the Delphi Summit is on in Amsterdam. And again, I know not everybody can get there. I mean, if you're in Turkey, it's a long drive. And, you know, if you're in Canada, unless you can swim very fast and you've got strong arms, you're going to have to fly. So I get it. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's easy for me to say, go to the Delphi Summit because I'm going, you know, as part of what I do. But it's going to be a big one. A lot of people from the Delphi world will be there. Marco Cantu will be there. He's doing a session. I'll be there hanging out for both of the days. It's a 2-day summit. And come and say hi, you know, and let's talk about Delphi. Tell me what you're annoyed about. Tell me what you're happy about. Tell me the things you want to see in the future, and I'll note them down, and I will pass them on. I can't guarantee they're going to happen, but I will pass them on. You should never be thinking that we are not going to listen to you, because I said this to someone the other day. You know, there's a lot of AI in Microsoft Edge and also Windows now, and if you don't like something about Windows or Edge, who do you email? Who do you email to tell them? And who do you email that you know will actually listen and take notes and reply? and reply usually within the hour? And the answer is nobody. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with someone like Microsoft. I'm just saying their organization is set up to be so huge that there just is not one person there who can be, assigned like that. Embarcadero, you can email me about anything to do with development. Oh, my laptop behind me is restarting. Don't know what's going on there? Email me about anything to do with that. But if not, go to the Delphi Summit, hang out with me, and we'll have a laugh and talk about stuff. And their food is fantastic, and it's held in a video games arena. I mean, come on, what more incentives do you need? Right, so let's enough of that, and I'll talk about the AI thing that they've got going as well. They have AI training running. I think it's this month and next month, but I'm not sure. But if you scan that, they've got some training on AI. So they're traveling around the world and teaching you how to put AI in your programs with special sessions and things like that. They've got people that dedicate to that. So, if you want to learn about incorporating AI into your product, or your application or whatever it is that you've got, then look at that training. And we are going to be doing some webinars about AI as well, because of course it's the hot topic. Idera, our parent company, are very, very keen on AI, and we are too. If you look at the 12.3 video, you see we've included some more AI. It's off by default, but some of the features in there are AI friendly, so to speak. And AI used in the right way can be very, very useful. And someone said the other day, "Oh, when are you going to include Copilot in RAD Studio?" And the answer is you can already use Copilot in RAD Studio, not built in. What you do is go to the Get It package manager, type in Copilot, and you will get an ad in there. Click on that, install it, and then you've got Copilot enabled in your IGE. It's from one of our tech partners, I think, or something like that. And I think it's completely free as well. So I don't know about Copilot itself, but certainly the add-on is free. So, there is Claude, there's Gemini, there's Copilot, there's Olama. It's not that there isn't AI, there's a massive choice of AI. So, if you're thinking about putting AI in your own products, then this AI training course is one. And this is not an Embarcadero one. I'm just promoting it because GDK are a good bunch of people and they're doing that course. So there you go. What else have we got? Oh, yes. Already downloaded, installed, and ran several programs, says John. Good man. Yeah. In the 64-bit IDE. Yes. That's one of the things we announced, was that there is now a 64-bit version of the IDE. It is the initial release. It's not completely parity with the 32-bit IDE, but it certainly works. And people tried it and said, "Oh, hey, it just works." There's a few things to sort out as always, but could you name 12.4 drama? Okay, so drama, I'm guessing, is pronounced Sakis. I'll tell you something. There's not going to be a 12.4, so unfortunately there isn't. We will have a version of 13 because there was some discussion about whether there would be a version of 13. 13.0 or whatever, and the reason is that some countries feel that there's a superstition that the number 13 is called triskaidekaphobia. Some countries they believe that 13 is unlucky, and some cultures actually believe that 13 is lucky. So it just depends on which country you go to, and some go, "Don't be stupid, 13 is just a number." However, after some discussion, there will be a version 13. So I'm hoping that there won't be some kind of bad luck symbol, but there won't be. But there will be a version 13. I do know some of the names we've got planned, and I'm afraid right now drama is not one of them. So, but I will notice it. The thing about drama is it's kind of got double meaning, hasn't it? Do we want something that's dramatic? I don't know, dramatic. I like it, but yeah, it's something to note down. John says everything worked as expected so far in the 12.3. Great. I'm really pleased to hear that. Okay, and I'm going to answer these questions on Mark Richard says, "Do existing third parties packages install as is?" I'll give you an answer to this. we had a beta series, a beta program, quite a long one actually, for the 64-bit IDE, and we specifically approached the tech partners. These are the people that create these third-party packages like MMX Explorer, CN Back, CN Wizards, G Experts, and made the beta available to them. And for example, many of you will be familiar with Richard Hatherall from Apocept, who does those AWS components. He's been on a few times. His package silently looked to see if you had the 64-bit IDE available. If you did, it sneakily installed in there and didn't say anything, because the beta was, under a non-disclosure agreement. But that's the kind of thing that's been going on. So actually, many of the leading third-party packages are already compatible, and also there's a very high degree, excuse me, of compatibility between the 32-bit and 64-bit IDE. So you'll find that many of them will just work straight away anyway without any changes. There are some differences, but as John said, and I'm not paying John to say this, everything worked as expected so far. I like to qualify that. So far, you never know. Yeah, I get it. Yasu Constantine in Athens in Greece. And as John says, you'll need 64-bit versions. Yes, the packages need to be 64-bit compliant, but like I say, many of the people have already done that. Many of the big names like Dev Express, I think, TMS. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I know that were testing these things out. So check with them and make sure, but I think you'll find that they will work as expected. Salutation to Quebec. Thank you. Yeah, salut to Quebec. Main 32-bit. Okay. You meant do the 32-bit packages. Yes. 12.2 and 12.3 is completely compatible, 32-bit. So actually, when you install 12.3, there's a question that asks, which is, do you want to delete the registry entries, yes or no? Say no. But before you do that, uninstall the Parnassus plugins. And I think that's probably the only one. I'm not sure, but the add-ins that get added into the IDE, it's better to unplug those, but particularly the Parnassus ones. But after that, you don't need to uninstall the rest of the IDE. When you go to install 12.3, it will say to you, hey, do you want to keep the registry settings? If you say yes, when 12.3 runs, it will uninstall 12.2 and then install all the 12.3 differences, the bits, and keep those registry settings as long as you say yes, keep the registry settings. And when 12.3 starts, it'll just be working out of the box. I know because I do it every time. I've been installing 12.3 for several months now. As you can imagine, being an employee, I get to see very, very early versions of it and things like that. But yeah, it is completely compatible. I've got all my third-party components at work, so there's no difference. Now, 13 is different. So minor versions, 12.0, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3 are compatible. We did have a blip around 12.1 because we made a mess up, but actually it's been corrected now. But 12.0, 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3 will all be compatible with each other. Okay, particularly 12.2 and 12.3 will be fine. But when you go to 13, the reason we have the major number change, 12 to 13, is because that does have breaking changes and it will not be compatible. And we save some bug fixes that people are waiting for, I know, that we know we can't fix without breaking things until the major version, until 13 comes out. So that's what it is. What about the size of the Embarcadero organization? Well, that's kind of like business sensitive stuff, enough that there are hundreds of people that you never see or never hear of. And I can tell you that for a fact. For example, I went to one meeting a while ago and there were like 100+ people I'd never seen before, and they were all linked to what we do. So and I was there to talk about developer relations, but yeah, I mean, let's be clear, we are not Microsoft. Microsoft has thousands of people per office. They've got, billions of dollars, and they've been around a long time, but big enough, And I know sometimes people think we've got like one man and a dog doing things, but that's not true. It's more than that. Malcolm says, good morning. Yes, good morning. And Francis says, I had no issues with components, TMS software, and Dev Express that have been preparing for a while with the beta. Yes. Okay. Excellent. And this is a question I wasn't really going to do like a 12.3 Q&A, but let's do it anyway. So will 12.3 have a CE version? Okay, the current CE version is going to remain the same, which is 12.1, I think. We always try to do a CE version every year, and depending on when that happens, it's whatever the version is at that point we try and release. So eventually there will be another CE version, depending on the time, and it may well be 12.3. But I can't say that for certain because it just depends. We kind of do it out of bandwidth, and because of the way the projects work, this kind of leapfrog each other. So right now, it is what it is. It's 12.1, and that's it. Friday the 13th is regarded as unlucky. It's a Knights Templar. I used to live near Baldock, and I was Knights Templar were based there at one point. So yeah, they were a very strange bunch of people. There's a school in Baldock in Hertfordshire called Knights Templar School, named after it. I thought we should talk about MORMot, but no, actually, we are going to talk about MORMot, so don't worry. I'm just answering the questions that are on the question. So ask me a question about MORMot and I'll answer it. But we are going to talk about it. What else we've got? Yes, do that. I'm going to reinstall 12.3. Install 12.3 today, and all my TMS stuff remained with no problems. Yeah, good. Okay. And Tarek says, is Uni GUI better for web application? That's like saying now, is it better to have a chocolate cake or a vanilla cake? It just depends on what you're trying to achieve there. Do you prefer pies or soup? They're different things. Uni GUI works differently to Intraweb, and Intraweb works differently to TMS Web Core, and they all work differently to Web Stencil. So, I think that's is what it is. I didn't say we've got 100 people; I said hundreds. But yes, yeah. I mean, it's not something we would give out because who's going to reveal, 60,000 people working or one person working? It's not how it is. And Boyan said, hello. Sorry I got in a little bit late. A week on this Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, Boy and I are doing a special webinar about the Internet of Things. We are going to show Visuino in depth. Boyan's going to show me. I'm going to hang around and be annoying. And we're going to plug stuff in. We're going to power it up with Visuino. We're going to program it, and he's going to show us our Delphi components as well. Visuino is written in Delphi. It is an amazing thing. So let us go and answer this question, which is perfect timing. Thank you, Lawrence. You're very impatient, aren't you? But never mind. You should know these webinars are not like a lecture. That's not how it's working. Right. So let me, without further ado, follow on from that. Let's hide that. And let us share my screen. Whoops. When am I going to release Android 64 for C++? Good question. We're still looking at that. Unfortunately, we can't do it at the moment. And we will get to it. Okay, so let me have a look at my screen. Share this screen. Now, as you're all aware, when I'm sharing my screen, I actually can't see your questions because I use PowerPoint. And as I mentioned before, knowing who you can talk to at Microsoft to complain about something is impossible. Unlike Embarcadero, where you can go and talk to me and complain about stuff and say, "Oi, Ian, I thought this webinar was about MORMot, and you're talking about 12.3." So there you go. So, right, let's go and talk about MORMot before Augusto and Lawrence flip out and have a bad day about stuff. So I'm going to turn my camera off like so, and I'm going to go to here. So, what are we doing today? Well, today is part of the 30 for 30 webinars. Why do we call it 30 for 30 for 30? The reason is 30 years ago, on February the 14th, Delphi was released for the first time, the very first version of Delphi. 30 years ago, so I thought, I know, rather stupid, I said, let's do 30 different webinars to celebrate that. And now it's starting to wear me down. I think this is number 18 or 19. So we're over halfway now. And today's webinar is about mORMot. And that's how I'm going to choose to pronounce it. I think that is probably the best way of pronouncing it. I can't think of a different way of saying it. But if I'm wrong, well, blame me. It's my problem. Why is it so awesome? Well, before we go any further, if this is your first time at this webinar, and I get from some of the names I'm seeing there that this might be, who am I? Well, my name is Ian Barker, and I'm the Embarcadero Developer Advocate. You can email me, please do, about any subject, including mORMot, to do with development, and I will answer. You can email me at ian.barker@embarcadero.com. If you want to read about me, see what I do in the world in general, what I've done and kind of development I've done, then go to about.me/Ian Barker, and you'll see websites and links there. So let's talk about a mORMot first. Name comes from. This is, why is there a logo that looks like a squirrel on the mORMot project? The reason is that it sounds a bit like marmot. And a marmot is a large ground squirrel from Asia, Europe and North America, and they are the heaviest members of the squirrel family. Yeah, that's so basically it's a fat squirrel, I think is the easiest way of talking about it. And that's what a mORMot is. Now, mORMot is a project that uses that logo. So that's why they've got that logo. The reason I said that first is because people will say, why is there a squirrel? Why is there a happy looking chipmunk? It's actually a marmot, and it's the name of the project. What is mORMot? Well, it is an open source client server ORM SOA MVC framework. And that's a big big lot of acronyms. If you want to look at it now, then go to github.com/synops/MORM2, mORMot 2. Just remember mORMot, and then it's mORMot 2. It is important to make sure you get the second version, mORMot 2, because there is a mORMot 1 that's just got no end on it, the URL on the end. So, please make sure you download mORMot 2 and not mORMot 1. Now, mORMot 1, there's nothing wrong with it. It is completely stable. But I today will show you what I've got in mORMot 2. And when I tried to do it in mORMot 1, I had some issues. And I think it's just because I accidentally installed 1 when I meant 2, and I had some paths wrong and things like that. But there's some unit tests, they didn't work. So I think it was just down to me. But anyway, the current one is mORMot 2. So let's just explain what those terms are. What do we mean by ORM? Well, an ORM is a software framework that simplifies database interactions by mapping database tables. And in Delphi, that would be a T table, but also a database table, as in, a physical database table like a MySQL table or a SQL Server table or anything like that. And it maps those tables to Delphi classes, or Object Pascal classes, in fact, is more accurate. But that is what object relational map is. So, for example, you might have a class in Object Pascal called tPerson, and that is meant to represent a person. So it's got a field called first name, a field called last name, and another field called telephone number. In a database, you might have a database table called person, and that's the table. And then you might have a field called first_name, and a field called last_name, and another one called person telephone number, so not the same names. What an ORM does is maps the data from the tables to the actual class, and actually goes a little bit further than that. So an ORM, an object relational framework like that, mapping framework, actually allows you to work with the classes so that they create, update, and delete records in your database just by manipulating the classes. So I'll say that again in a slightly different way to make a bit more sense. What it means is that if you want to create a record in an ORM, you don't open a query and say insert a record in the database. You don't need to do that. What you actually do is create a new instance of a person class, and that will then trigger the database to go and say, I need to create a new database record in the database for that person, a T person record. And when you set the class, the T person class first name field or member, what will happen in behind the scenes is that the database table that you've just, the record that you've just created, will have the first underscore name field updated from the contents of your class. Does that make sense? Have I kind of made that make sense? Hopefully I have. Okay. It sounds more difficult. Let me just someone was pinging me on my stupid thing, so I'm just gonna get rid of that person for just 1 second. I did say turn off my notifications, but some people can break through them if they're important enough. I don't care if they're the boss, they can go away. Right, so I'm busy with you guys. So it's more complicated to explain what an ORM is than actually use it, because the whole point about an ORM, object relational mapping, is that it takes away the complication of you having to worry about maintaining the database records. If you come from a background where you're used to doing insert on tables and append, delete, and update, it can be a little bit terrifying to suddenly rely on the classes themselves to do that for you. But that's really the power as well of an ORM, is that you no longer have to worry about the database. It does it all for you. There are some downsides. If something goes wrong, it can be a little bit tricky to try and recover from that. But actually, because a framework like mORMot is very mature and well used, that kind of problem doesn't really crop up that much. So it's all good. It's going to be fine. Now the next term was SOA, and this is another one that is kind of jargon, I suppose. But there are other ways of looking at it. And what it is a service-orientated architecture. That's what SOA stands for. And what an SOA does is really creates these little building blocks or bits of functionality, self-contained functionality, that work together or independently to provide certain functionality. And the idea is that the service-orientated architecture is completely independent of what the rest of your app is doing. So you can integrate their functionality without actually having to directly, write the classes in and, have some kind of dependency on one another. It removes the dependency and basically creates a bunch of black boxes that you program, and they then function separately without having to worry about exactly how they're doing it. They're self-contained, they're testable, they're very good. Hello George from Poland. Dzień dobry. And the final term that mORMot talks about is MVC, model view control. Now, not the kind of model I have walking down the catwalk there. I'm sure he's very beautiful, but and is worryingly smart, and he almost looks like he's AI, but apparently it's a real dude. I thought it was an AI image. But MVC is a term that you probably come across more often, and in some ways, Delphi and similar kind of visual design languages already do provide a sort of poor man's version of MVC. So let's really kind of align that with what we mean. So model view controller means that that the data that you are going to be working with exists on its own as data. It is a bunch of classes with some business logic that's assigned to that, and they're self-contained. It means you can write unit tests for it to test that it works. You don't have to worry about the user interface. You can test that, adding a person's first name, if it's got some kind of invalid information in the first name, or the telephone number that you assign isn't a valid telephone number. You can test all of that in the model with the data and the business logic. You might, for example, have some business logic for a person record that says, if you update the telephone number, then you have to, let's say, if you have to update the email address, you might have some business logic that says you will send a confirmation to their old email address to say that that's what you've done, and you all should probably be familiar with this, so that the person whose record that is knows that their email address has been updated from the one that they were using. And that gives them the opportunity to say, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't ask to change my email address, because they're being hijacked. All of that kind of stuff should be dealt with by the model and the business logic. Okay. Now, the controller does all that for you and manages part of that process. But the view is the thing where it really starts to become critical, should we say, that it's a separate thing. And with a view, we're really talking about the bits you can see and touch. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a user interface like, edit boxes and stuff like that. It could be that it's something like a report, because a report, a PDF report or something like that, is actually a form of view. If you think about it, it just happens to be that it is a way that data is being represented to the user, the end user. But usually when we talk about views, we tend to be talking about the actual UI, the user interface itself. Okay, so that's the thing. The view should not really have anything to do with the model, the data in the background. It shouldn't be directly updating the data. What should happen is that the controller, the glue logic that works between the view and the model, deals with that. And there are variations on that, and you can Google these. There is one called MVC, so it's model view model, and various other variations. But really, at its most basic form, the model is the database, and the bits that connect, work with the database, saving it, storing it, validating it. The user interface is a representation of that data to the actual user, either through a screen or a report or an alert, for example, or some other form of touchable, visible thing, or even a sound, for example, because a view could be an alert sound. Let's say a fire alert has gone off and you want to set a klaxon working, then really, in a way, although you call it view, it is still a form of user interface. You're interfacing with the real world. Nothing to do with the data. The controller pulls the model and the view together and makes it so there's a nice separation. Now, from a technical point of view, the reason that's very important and why mORMot is so good is that it means that you can run unit tests and do a lot of testing and validating on the model. You can get your user interface looking right, or change it completely to look like a different look and feel for, say, a mobile app or a desktop app, or a web page, and not worry about the underlying model and controller, because they're all separate. So that's why this is a big thing, and why more experienced and more long-term developers tend to want to do MVC. So you'll see that that paradigm repeatedly. Delphi kind of does that in a way, because if you think about the form, the screens that you design, they're kind of like a view. And in the background, if you're using something like a data module or something like that, you can then represent your data behind the scenes like that as well. And then you can use things like live bindings to work like a controller to bind those two things together. But actually, it's a slightly loose and not very strong representation of the MVC thinking, shall we say. So it's not right to say that Delphi out of the box is MVC, because it's not. Same as Visual Basic, same as Visual C++ or anything like that, or Visual C#. So let's take a look at what the mORMot project does, okay, to get some idea of it. Now, I'm going to just close my project like that. Going to open RAD Studio. So this is RAD Studio 12.3, and as you can see, I didn't reinstall of these. Someone was asking about this. So these are already installed in 12.2, and it just worked. I was talking about the launch webinar. If you want to find out more, or indeed even any of the previous webinars, including the last one, which was Tuesday, you can find them all down here. After today, once we finish this one today, the mORMot one will appear here as well. In fact, it'll appear above the list. It'll be above the RAD Studio launch webinar. So you'll see another entry here, and the mORMot one is in there. So where do we find mORMot first? Let's go into GitHub and they view on GitHub. So here is where it's found. Okay, mORMot 2, and there's a whole load of documentation with, yes, the fat squirrel appearing everywhere, which is hilarious, and lots of contributors. But as I've said before, Arnaud Boucher is the kind of lead dev on there. Okay, and to get it, what you need to do is go into here and say open with GitHub Desktop if you've got GitHub Desktop, or download it, the zip, and unzip it, which I recommend you don't do, or use the command line, or use SSH or something like that. You just literally say git clone and get it down. And what you will end up with is a project that looks a bit like this, with a whole bunch of packages in there. Now, read the instructions if you're a Delphi person, because there is a little bit of a setup to do, and they do tell you what to do, and that is you just need to change a path in there. So I think it's tools, options, and then I think they said, where was it? What was it? Yeah, I had to add an environment variable here to point to the source, and then I just had to update my library path to add the and I've got a very big library path because I've got a whole bunch of things on here, but at the very bottom of that I added the mORMot ones, and it automatically picked them up. Okay, once you've done that, you're good to go. So the first thing I think I would do is pick up on where is the project? This one. Okay. So here is a mORMot project. Okay. I've got mad accept installed because I was testing something out. So I'm just turn that off. You know, what mad accept on here. You can't see that because it's off the screen because of the way it's set up, but I'm just turning mad accept off and it deletes it. So there is mORMot, and it's set up in the example automatically. What it's going to do is create a REST server, because mORMot is used very, very well for web pages. And you think, oh yeah, well, how does that work? But the example is explained much more clearly, and I'm not really going to go into details about how it works, because I think it's one of these things where trying to show you this and explain it at the same time is going to be difficult. But go through and have a look at this example. But what does it do? If I hit F9, and it's going to come up on my machine here, and it's going to say, okay, I'm going to run as a console app. That's just the way this example set up. And if I control click on here, this is Windows Terminal, and I'm using Windows 11. If I click on here, what happens is it will open a web page here, and you can see it's a local host. And all of this is controlled by that mORMot stuff. So you know, I mean, this is a particular version, but if I wanted to say log out of the blog or log in or all the rest of it, all of these are self-contained and managed by the code. You know, so I'm not sure. Let me have a look here. I've got any articles. Oh yes, it uses a thing called Moustache, which is a form of templating as well. But that's it. It's not much to look for, but I think I can't really set all of this up in a short webinar. But if you go through the examples, you see what happens. Perhaps an easier example to show, but other than this, and I'll just go back to that code again. I'm being pinged by someone again, which means they probably disagree with something I've just said. Let me have a look. Just 1 second. Oh, okay, yeah, they're just saying something else. But you can see again, to set that REST server up, because that's what it is very straightforward. I know it looks complicated, but actually, once you read how it's working, all of this routing and everything is all automatic. And we talked about model view controller. So behind the scenes are these classes, and they're all mapped to the underlying database and works out of the box. Not the best example, but let's just stop that a second, because I've got a better example. As I can grab it over, there it is. So I'm going to just follow what it says and hit enter, and it stopped running. The better example is and these are all included, is, where is it? Welcome page, because I can't remember the name of the example now. They haven't given very intuitive names, I have to say. So here we go, chat server. So it's got REST WebSockets. That's what it's called, right? So this is another one example. So first of all, if I've compiled these two examples, because you'll see why in a moment, why it's easier to do that way. So I'm going to first of all run chat server, okay? And what it's going to do is, again, run in the terminal, and it doesn't have to show all this stuff to the screen, but it makes sense to. And if I now say run the chat client, which is this one, it'll come up again. It'll say enter your name. So I'm going to call myself Ian1, okay? And I'm going to run it a second time, and I'm going to call myself Ian2, okay? And what we have here is the chat server sitting in the middle, and then these two executables that are running independently are going to talk to each other through the mORMot ORM. So I'm going to say, hi there. Oops, I accidentally hit enter. Whoops. And Ian1 has said hi. I've got to run that again now because I accidentally hit enter. So now I'm going to say hello, and now it should say Ian2 says hello. And I'm going to say I am Ian1. Go back in here. Ian1 says I'm Ian1, and I'm going to say I am Ian, like Spartacus or something like that. I am Ian2. It's doing all of this with very few lines of code, which I'll show you in a moment. But again, you're spinning up this server with, I don't know, 50 lines of code or something like that. It happens to be showing out debug trace to the console, but it doesn't have to. You know, you could have this running as a service or something like that. And in fact, there are examples explain how to do these kind of things. But what's so good about this? Well, in the background, if I pull up the chat server, which is slightly more complicated, in the background, you haven't really got a lot of happening. You create this chat service. It's an interface object, and it is an interface that looks like that. So it's got to join a channel, and then blah blah is just their way of saying send message, and off it goes and instantiates that in the code. There's a callback to say, I've received something from the interface. When the thing runs, this is the kind of the main loop, shall we say. So it creates this REST server, and you'll need to Google to understand what it does there, but it creates with its own model. And in this case, there is no model because there's no data held in the background. So it is purely, running a REST server. It creates any missing tables. Well, I don't think there are any, but let's have a look. Yeah, I don't think there's any missing tables. No, there isn't. So there's nothing to worry about there. Um, so it does a little housekeeping, sets up the service, define it, and that's it. And that off it goes. It says, "Oh, I'm ready to go." And that was the line that you saw where it says, "Here's the chat client is running on this IP address," and then type in something and hit enter to quit. It's 10 lines of code or something like that. I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it, but that is one of the other capabilities of mORMot, which is being able to set these REST servers up. She had asked this question, which is it always working in console mode? No. The reason that these demos are in console mode is because the view part of it is something that you define yourself, and you can receive information back on it. I'm going to show you their other examples in a moment because they've got a lot, and they've also got some videos that I can't play that demonstrate all of this much better. But these particular examples that I've got here, and there's about 7 or 8 of them, I think. These ones, they've got all sorts of different examples of things. If you think about service architecture, SOA, the service orientated architecture will tend to be a service. In other words, it's going to be running on the command line. But you could, there are other demos here that I haven't gone into, but there's some third-party demos. I think they've got some that do user interfaces and things like that. But the power behind it is how it deals with storing and retrieving the database. So, if I open this, I think I can open this with Ultra Edit. This is going to work. Yeah. Should open this with Ultra Edit temporarily. The whole dealing with databases and stuff like that is a different way of doing it. You're not saying people open a table or anything like that. You're actually creating a link between the model and the controller, and then manipulating the model, the data model, and that will then cause the data things in the background, and it's all done for you. So how you do that is up to you in terms of the user interface. I couldn't find in time, because I've been very, very busy, as you can imagine, in the 12.3 release, some good GUI demos. And the one I didn't have a copyright issue, so I couldn't actually use it. But go to their website and they've got loads of videos there that show you how to do all of this. But you are mainly doing, as I said before, service orientated architecture. So it means a lot of them are either Windows services, which is perfectly fine, or a console app, so a DOS app or a Linux app. And that's another thing, by the way, it's cross-platform. And if you read on the website, they've got cross-compilation that goes on, all sorts of things like that. It's a big project. Now, in terms of using it, you've got some core bits that you need to add. There are no components as such. It's all dealt with behind the scenes, and that's a good point that MacGyver is making there, which great name, by the way. mORMot is much more than ORM and SOA. It's a lot of different modules. Yeah, I was going to go and cover those in a moment, but it's got encryption, it's got a web server, certificate methods, and a lot more. And in fact, when you go to the website and have a look, as Roman says, the first demo MVC blog has a working web interface. Just use the second URL link. Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? As I said, I'm making a very poor job of demoing this. So let me. Where was it? Web server chat client. this one. Is that the one you were talking about? I think you were. Close these for a second. Yeah. So close these. I'll just hit enter and it closes. And then I think the same with here. So what was he saying? Is much more. There's a lot of. So the first demo MVC blog has a working web interface. Just use the second URL link. Okay, so let me run that and see what you mean. Okay. So again, it's running in the background. And if I hit enter, 8092. Yeah, okay. Just use the second. Not sure what you mean by that. Has a working web interface, just use the second URL link. What second? Oh, I see. You mean get rid of that? I see. Right, I've gotcha. What did he mean by that? I use the second URL link and it doesn't seem to be doing what I thought it would do. Did raise it? I mean, yeah, there's a whole web interface there, but oh, I see. So this is like, okay, so yeah, okay, right. So he's basically saying, right, okay, so what he's saying is there's a whole bunch of data behind there. Yeah, I mean, I'm making a very poor demo of this. I didn't intend to go through the demos like that anyway. URL in the command window. Yeah, the second one, like that. That's what I did. And I'm getting that message. See this one? That's the one I was clicking. I've probably done something wrong. These customize this file. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Only the port number. Yeah. I mean, like that. That's what I'm doing. Local host 8092. Yeah. Well, I did. Doesn't work. It's my configuration more than anything else. I hasten to add. Okay, it doesn't matter. Look, the point, I didn't want to go anyway. The point I'm making here is that those were just the two things that I wanted to show you as a demo. I wanted to talk more about the Synapse project in general, because if you go into the documentation, of which there is a lot, and even though they say work in progress, believe me, there's a whole ton of it. Will go through and explain all the other things that it does. It does massive amounts of things. We would like to have been able to install it via Get It. So if you're all familiar with the Get It package manager, we would like to have mORMot in here. And in fact, there was a submission by them. They did ask if we would list it in there. The reason that we can't list it is actually kind of positive about mORMot and a negative about the US government, and that is because mORMot includes such good encryption that you cannot we can't distribute it because of the organization of IDERA and Embarcadero. We are basically a US-based company, and there are restrictions on encryption, including encryption. And so, in Get It can include some encryption, but we can't include generalized, specific, strong encryption. And the good thing about mORMot is the bad thing about it is that it's got some very, very strong encryption. For example, it's, you name it, it's got it. It's got hashes, encryptions, asymmetric keys, X509, the industry standard, OpenSSL, which actually we don't we don't distribute, but you can get from various places. DNS and ACME. ACME is the Let's Encrypt protocol for that. So it's very, very powerful. The other thing you can do is, and again, this, the website and read all about it, is the fact that it can work with SQL and no SQL databases. It's got a whole bunch of access technology for that. There's also a whole load of utilities, and people that use mORMot swear by it. They love it because it's got absolutely everything in there. I think you can create PDFs and a whole wide bunch of other things as well. It's got cross-compiler and cross-platform JSON, UTF, a runtime type information kernel. So it's almost like generics. It's not generics. They don't actually include generics, but they use a very strong run RTTI conversion and stuff like that. It's got so many things in it, and I've done a very poor job of showing it. You should go there and have a look at yourself. But in particular, I definitely recommend looking at the documentation, because that documentation for 2, and they also reference 1 as well. Go there and you'll see the whole multitude of things it can do, because it can do absolutely everything you'd ever want. Its strength is probably as a fully powered web server, but that is really only scratching the surface of it. It's a massive project. Got a lot of respect for Arno himself, who I've dealt with, but all the other contributors as well, which I suspect a couple are on this chat at the moment, probably pulling their hair out, going, Ian, you did a really useless explaining this. But it is a beast. The only way that you are going to get to grips with what it can do is to try and do it yourself. Look at the documentation, and you'll see use cases that make sense for you. There are some YouTube videos available. We haven't got any yet, and I am actually going to get together with some mORMot people and try and make some long, in-depth explanations of using mORMot with some props. Rather than just a webinar that explains it. Ken Wilkinson says, is there any indication that mORMot 2 works with C++ Builder? I suspect not. It's very Delphi or Object Pascal orientated. If there's a mORMot person on the chat who knows the answer, if you could answer that, that would be great. I think not. I've only personally played around with it on using Delphi and Free Pascal. You can invite Arno. Yes, I'm going to. The only reason we didn't do it for today is right now, because the timing that was going on today, we were not 100% sure where we would be with this webinar. But I actually want to get Arno back for an extended webinar with demos as well, to show all the things it can do, because I don't know why, but I don't seem to have any videos of anybody showing mORMot, and I think it's a crying shame, because it's a fantastic project. I would have shown you some of the videos, and I would have shown you some demos, but we don't own that video, and I can't really embed someone else's video. It'd be a bit cheeky, wouldn't it? But we'll get them to do it. But it's only earlier this year, I think it was, that Arno agreed to be an MVP, and we're going to meet up and have a long chat at all and do some more. But I wanted to introduce you, really do like a you should know about this project rather than the kind of learn everything there is about it. The other thing about mORMot is, and I would say, yes, please invite Arno. Yes, okay. Well, let's see if Arno wants to do that first. But my app using mORMot and Syn PDF unit easily creates PDF reports of 1,000+ pages of tables filled with data using several different fonts in one cell in less than a minute. It's really fast. Yes, Peter. And that's another thing, is the speed of mORMot. It's not just the speed, but it's that once you get your head around how it works with the structure behind it, because it's not, I wouldn't say it's completely intuitive. I would say if there's a criticism of it, it is that there's a bit of a learning curve to getting to the point where you can actually understand what it's doing. But once you've got your head around it, it's extremely powerful and very useful. So as Adel says, there's an event-driven model, domain-driven, and other architectures. Yeah, it was enough to explain MVC before anything else, but yeah, exactly. Now, the other thing about this project is the support that you get. And for a open source project, this is, it's not unique. I mean, for example, the Skier for Delphi one is very, very widely supported, and there's very active communities. But there was a Telegram group and a Discord server, and their official forum. There is a whole bunch of people out there who are going to help you out, understand what you can do with it, but also explain where you've got a problem or something like that, and go through the various bits and bobs. Hey, I don't know how to do this. You've got a bunch of helpful people there. Not all open source projects are as active as mORMot, and same with Skier. They're both probably stand out as ones that really are way ahead of everything. I mean, probably Indy and the turbo power type stuff are probably the nearest thing to it, but mORMot is very heavily loved by people and very heavily supported. John Bird, who was around the other day, I do all my printing by displaying at screen page controls, grids, labels, memos, and then simply scrape the text output into a printer by iterating through the components on order. Okay, well, yeah, that's one way of doing it, I suppose. I would say that if you're going to use something on ORM or mORMot, then there are better ways of doing it than do it that way. The point about mORMot is that I like is the testability of the things that you set up. Even when you install, the first thing you do once you've installed mORMot, and I didn't show that process, is actually it's got a bunch of unit tests, and you can go through and run these tests, and it will come back and tell you whether they work or not. So it's a kind of good start. The other thing as well that I kind of badly showed you on that thing here. If we go back to, is it still running? No, I don't know where it is now. The other thing it has is it supports all sorts of the latest sort of technologies, or at least the standard technologies like Swagger. So Swagger is like a way of documenting REST services, the kind of methods and properties and so on and so forth that they support. And it supports Swagger, it supports the routing and all the rest of it that goes with it. It's a great package. I cannot say there's Swagger there. I cannot say enough good things about it. It's if you are going to be working in an enterprise environment or an environment where you've got lots of services that need to be running and be reliable and easy to maintain and testably maintained, then mORMot is probably the thing for you. There are other packages out there. There's Mar from Andrea Magni. There's a good few systems around, but mORMot is probably the classy leader about that. And like I say, we will get Arno or maybe some of the others to come and show us what this can do. I just wanted to get this out and have the light of day to say you should go and look at this framework, look at the examples, watch the videos, just go onto YouTube and search for mORMot 2. mORMot and then Pascal, and you will find a whole bunch of videos there that I can't show on this stream because copyright. MacGyver says I would be surprised how well the code is documented. Actually, I'm not surprised because the quality of everything else pretty much says you've got class act there, and I my hat's off to the contributors there because there's a whole bunch of them, but Arno in particular, as I say, is now an MVP. But there's a whole bunch of names there. Some of them you recognise, some you won't recognise. Some from the Free Pascal world, some from Delphi world, some from both. But the code is very well documented, and every function has a comment right in the code. Yeah, well, that is kind of what you should do. So I'm glad, but also it's a very rare thing. Some people just think you're supposed to work it out. It would be nice to have a open API Swagger importer in Delphi. Well, actually, RAD Server does a lot of that kind of stuff, and there's a few other packages as well that do that. When you say importer, do you mean like emitter, really, where the Swagger emits that? Because you can kind of do importing, and there's some tools to do it. Compared to DMVC, I say they're all similar kind of thing, but mORMot is more rounded and there's more to it. It's got lots of little things like the utilities and stuff like that. That DMVC is much more narrowly defined, whereas mORMot's got a whole bunch of other bits and bobs added on top as well. Again, and by the way, I don't know whether I mentioned this, but it is open source. I think I said that, but you've got the 3 different licenses. Yeah, code emitter. Yeah, okay. There are already some functions for emitting things in Swagger and stuff like that. Adel says he's been using mORMot since 2014. I've learned a lot from the well-documented framework and so on. Yes. You know, the purpose of these webinars is to really give people the tools to go and look further into a particular topic. And I hope that all of you and you know, if you at least go and look at the project and see what it can do. I'm going to put the link up here, but you know, go and consider what can be done, because this kind of project deserves our support. Away when we're talking about support, I don't know where it is now, but on this page I think they do mention, yeah, there we go. They do mention sponsoring the development, and even better, sharing your own commits as well. So, you know, I keep saying this about lots of other open source projects. If you can afford it, and it doesn't have to be a lot, yeah, if you can afford a couple of dollars, that's better than $0, right? But if you can afford it, sponsor the project. Okay. You know, we don't sponsor financially this project, but we do offer, you know, some licenses and things like that, and we will do that to other open source projects as well. If you've got a open source project that you believe is it's got a wide appeal or a good appeal, and it's not just, you know, you and 2 of your mates, but if you've got an appealing open source project, please email me, and I'm going to put my email up on the screen here. Please email me and let's talk, because there are things that Embarcadero can do to support open source projects. We're not trying to take you over. We're not trying to, you know, get it all for ourselves. In fact, most projects that we do incorporate, we contribute back. Indie project, for example, we do some significant kind of contributions. We've made changes to fix various issues with Indie, and then we contribute that code back to the project. Plus, we also sponsor with, you know, licenses and a few other things as well. So there are a few projects around that we will do that too. So if you've got a really good open source project and you want some help, or you think that it needs airing, or, you know, you want us to write a blog post about it, please email me, ian.barker@embarcadero.com. The only ones that are big problems where they're not Delphi compatible, because they're kind of pointless for us, you know. But that doesn't mean to say I won't talk about it. But if it's Free Pascal only, then it's a bit of a narrow sort of appeal for the people who are using Delphi. But that doesn't mean to say it's a no. As I said before, we're not enemies. We're on the same side of the fence, and we're cousins. And sometimes we fall out. Sometimes we don't agree on everything. But we certainly shouldn't be fighting. And you know, we are all in it for Object Pascal, which is what it says there on that screen. Modern Object Pascal. That's what Delphi is, and that's what other things are. So I think that's it, just like the soap importer. Yeah, okay, all right. So that's where we're at with that. I'm going to stop sharing for now. I knew as soon as I did this, because of the release yesterday of 12.3, I knew I had some trouble getting some stuff ready, and so I knew that the demo was not going to be as good as I wanted it to be. And I know that we're going to do another webinar where we do have an expert from the mORMot project come and show us drive it like it should, you know. as opposed to me who drives it like it's stolen badly. So, you know, but if there's one takeaway that you should get from this, mORMot is incredibly powerful. If you've not heard it before, then, and in fact, that should say mORMot 2, that link up there, then go and take a look yourself. Go and read the documentation, watch some of the videos. There's a whole bunch, and there's even, I believe, a training course from Thomas. Thomas has done a bunch of tutorials as well about mORMot. So, you know, they're going to do a way better job than me of showing the basics. The biggest problem with any ORM type stuff is that there's a bit of a learning curve to getting to the point where you use it. And with the 30 for 30 webinars, I've tried to not focus too much on code and try to more focus on concepts and sources of stuff. I want you to learn about Delphi Dash books, for example, and other projects like that, and go to them and consume them yourself. Not just me show you everything and then you go, well, that was great. No, I want you to actually go and say, oh, okay, I get an idea of what you can do. Let's go and examine it a bit more. So that's the same thing with this. I want you to grasp the concept of what we're showing here. And so Adel seems to know a lot more about this than I thought. 2,000 pages of documentation. Well, you know what? Sometimes, Adel, you can have too much of a good thing. And I referred to donuts there, but not documentation. But 2,000 pages of documentation. Good God. Well, you know, hopefully you're going to introduce an AI chatbot that will answer your questions. Point it at that documentation and get some AI helping you out. And you'll probably have your own mORMot expert AI. That would be fantastic. Okay, all right. Well, it's been the end of a very, very long week for me, which is why I'm a bit all over the place. This week I have broadcast to, I thought it was like 2 South Koreans, and it turns out it was actually, and I don't know if I've got a picture of it. Let me just see if I've got a picture of it, because it was so crazy that I can't find it. No, I can't find it. I thought I was talking to 2 South Koreans, and they sent me a picture, and it was a whole theatre full of South Koreans. It's very, very weird, and it was like till 1:30 in the morning, and I've shown them 12.3 much more competently than I showed mORMot. And then I was up working again at 6:30 in the morning on the day of the 12.3 release, and then I was up till ridiculous o'clock to broadcast the Australian. So it's been a bit of a week plus all the other things that are going on. But I appreciate all of you for coming to these webinars. We've got one on Tuesday, which will be a little bit less messed up and bitty, if you see what I mean. And that is called Help. My app is being detected as a computer virus. Now, when we get to that subject, the reason is that this is happening more and more, and they're false positives on antivirus, but also someone did it the other day. They submitted, they wanted us to include something for Get It, and they gave us a link. And when I went to the link, it was an exe, and it wasn't signed. And when I tried to download it, it was blocked by Windows. And even once I went through the yes, it's okay, keep and all the rest of it, and saved it to the computer, it wouldn't let it run. And then my antivirus scanned it and said, it's got a virus in it. And after a mild moment of panic, I went and checked, and Jason, don't say stuff like that, otherwise I'll end up having to ban you. That would be sad. Our only religion is Delphi or Object Pascal, and our only politics are tabs and spaces. And I mean that. War is always bad everywhere. And politics, anybody that wants to become a politician should by default be banned from becoming a politician. So that's my view on politics, and I don't pick sides at all, and I don't think anybody should. Our only politics is, as I say, it's tabs and spaces. Same with religion as well. You know, the best way to start an argument is about religion or politics or love. Yeah. But anyway, yes, this guy, the executable got blocked as a virus as well, even though it wasn't a virus. And in fact, I had the source code recompiled, and it still got blocked as a virus, even though there was nothing wrong with it. And so Tuesday's webinar is about some steps you can take to, first of all, prevent that in the first place. And secondly, what to do if it does happen and there's nothing, you know, you can't, you know, you're stuck and your customers can't download your projects, your programs. So we'll be talking all about that as well. Or soccer, yes, yeah. Hi, that's the other way to start an argument, is talk about soccer, yeah, or football, or sport in general. Yeah, exactly. It's good fun. And then that's Tuesday, and then on Friday we've got another one, which is OAuth 2. So we showed a little bit of OAuth 2 before, and in the how to send email via Gmail project. But there is more than one way to send OAuth 2, and we have some built-in components that actually support all that kind of stuff as well. And I'm going to show you some example code on the Friday, a week today, and talk about how OAuth 2 works in the background. If you've ever wondered exactly what goes on behind the scenes, you know, the conversation and how that works, we're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about other forms of two-factor authentication, how that works, and how to support those in your apps as well. And here's another person who is giving a bit of a thumbs up to MORMot as well. My name is Edward from Germany, Sorpetaler Fensterbau, a wooden window producer using mORMot for years. It is a really huge and great toolbox. Yes, that's the one thing that everybody says. We did a 4-day Pascal conference in September 17th and 21st. Yes, and I suspect there is one that I'm coming to around about that time. So that maybe I've been asked to appear at one of these events in Germany. I suspect it's that one. John says, can I post that video link about mORMot again? Probably the way to find it. John, I can't post it because it's not one of ours. And if we do accidentally do it, we get a copyright strike, and then we get suspended on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in mORMot 2 Pascal. Okay, just as simple as that. And you believe me, you'll come up with loads and loads of videos. Edward says mORMot will be the main and amazing topic. Fantastic. If that's one I'm going to, I shall be sitting in. I've seen one before, a demo before in Vorentag, I think, or something like that. But I am going to one in Germany in September. It may be that one, and if so, I'll look forward to it. Like I say, I confess, you know, I need to do some better demos, but more importantly, I want to get an expert on mORMot to come and demo the product and say what they like about it, rather than just listen to me. I'm only trying to bring attention to it. I'm not trying to say here's the definitive answers. But yeah, mORMot will be the main topic. Fantastic, good, and you have my support, and that's true of the Free Pascal people as well. You know, I've said this before. Anything I can do, I write for Blaze Pascal magazine, which is actually written by a person who's primarily Free Pascal, because I want you to use Object Pascal. That's the secret here. That's the secret. Doing it any other way is doing it the hard way. Oh, let's use C#. Oh, let's use Python. Let's use XAML to create user interfaces. Why would you do that? Look, Object Pascal is way more. It's simpler language. It's much more expressive, and it was originally created to be a teaching language. So, you know, it is what it is. Thank you for giving us about this great toolbox. Hey, you know, thank you. You know, I didn't do a very good job today, but I did a job. Okay, I will make a fork and I will try tryptophan mORMot with my community. Good. Excellent. Okay, well, thanks a lot, everybody. I will see you next time. And if you're a mORMot person, Can you, if if you believe you're a kind of an expert at mORMot, can you email me and let's link up and do a better demo, a webinar dedicated completely to mORMot with someone else explaining how to use it and what they like about it and do a better job than me. As I said, my job was to introduce it and just say that it's there. But now we need someone to actually go and show something, a real big project, and explain the utilities that it's got built in and everything as well. But if not, go to that website and read all the documentation and examples, because there's a whole ton of them there. But anyway, in the meantime, I will speak to you next Tuesday. But until then, have a pleasant weekend. And Boyan, we will start advertising your webinar for next Saturday as well. Don't worry. And Boyan and I next Saturday we'll watch your emails and watch your messages, because me and Boyan are going to do some cool internet thing stuff. But until then, have fun.